Hi friends, life is about solving good, hard problems. To solve such problems, one of the most effective strategies is divide and conquer. Today, let's talk about this algorithm and how it can not only be applied as an algorithm to solve sort problems, but also it can be applied in productivity, fitness, and politics. Let's dive in. So here is our agenda today. We'll first talk about divide and conquer, the concept. And then we'll talk about a concrete example of how to apply divide and conquer in sorting problems. Concretely, we'll talk about merge sort algorithm. After that, we'll talk about 3 applications of divide and conquer in real world. Concretely, we'll talk about productivity, fitness, and politics application of divide and conquer. And lastly, we'll talk about some common pitfalls and how to avoid them. So, what is divide and conquer? When facing a complex and intimidating problem, you don't just start immediately. You analyze, generalize, and dissect the problems into smaller, solvable subproblems, which we call a base case. The base case must be generalizable to be bigger problems. Concretely, here are 3 steps: divide, conquer, and combine. Divide means that dissect the problem into subproblems, the base cases. And conquer means that we solve the easy to solve base cases. And combine means that we use the solved base cases as subcomponents and building blocks to solve the bigger, more complex subproblems. We do this recursively until we solve the original problem. Let's talk through a concrete example using merge sort. So the problem is that right now we have an unsorted list and we want to make it sorted. So we apply the 3 steps: divide, conquer, and combine. First step is to divide this problem into modular base cases. The strategy we apply here is every time you cut the array in half until you arrive at the base case, which are the single element arrays. Because they have only one element, they are automatically sorted. That means they're automatically conquered. Easy. Next step, the real tactic here is about how to combine. So given that we already have pairs of single element arrays that are automatically sorted, we can merge them together into a larger subproblem that are also sorted array. So these are sorted, these are sorted. So we continue assemble these small sorted subarrays and then combine them into larger and larger arrays until we are able to solve our original problem. So if you're curious, how do you combine these arrays into bigger sorted array? So here's a concrete example. Say, because these 2 arrays, they are already sorted, and in order to get this sorted array, you kind of just have 2 pointers, one pointer here and the other pointer here. And then each time you compare, for example, 27 is greater than 3. So you first put 3 here. And then this pointer moves here. So next you compare 27 and 43. You find that 27 is smaller. So you put 27 here and then you move the left pointer to 38. So this is how you merge these 2 subarrays into the other bigger sorted array. So concretely, let's summarize here. You divide into easy to solve base cases and solve these base cases. After that, you do combine. This is how you can apply divide and conquer into sorting an array. Next, let's talk about how you can apply divide and conquer into increasing your productivity. Remember the 3 steps: divide, conquer, and combine. So we divide one day into into 3 components: morning, afternoon, and evening, and then we further divide it into the multiple focus blocks in each component. Eventually, we divide it into the very simple base case, which is 1 pomodoro 25 minutes. So we focus on getting those 25 minutes done. So when we solve each base cases, which are these 25 minutes, we will be able to deliver, for example, part 1 of the project, part 2 of the project, and part 3 of the project. Eventually, you recursively combine until you finish the project. So similarly, focusing on one day is not easy, but if you can break it down into smaller chunks, and conquer those smaller chunks. Recursively, you will solve the bigger problem that you didn't think you could solve. Another application of divide and conquer is in fitness. Usually 1 hour workout is too long, but HIIT is a way to dissect the workout. Instead of pushing hard for the entire hour, you first break down the workout into bigger chunks. So here, we break down the 1 hour workout into 4 chunks. 15 minutes for lift, 15 minutes for run, and then rotate. In each 15 minutes, you further break down the component into 15 to 45 seconds interval. And each time, you only focus on the 15 to 45 seconds. You take a small break and go on the next move. Similarly, in running, you only run fast for 15 to 45 seconds and run slower for the few seconds, and then repeat. So here, we divide the 1 hour workout into all the base cases here. The base cases are easy to solve. 15 to 45 seconds workout. Anybody can do that. And then you further combine. For example, in the 15 minutes lift, you focus on muscle group A, and then here you focus on aerobic. Similarly, each component, you have one major focus. By combining the base cases here, you're able to tackle one sub-problem. And eventually, through the combination, you complete the 1 hour workout and get stronger and stronger daily. The key is not to push too hard, but consistently pushing. So, interestingly, divide and conquer is also frequently used in politics to gain power and control. But Rome expanded itself to multiple regions. These regions have very diverse legions, religions, and even cultures and languages. The Rome Empire applied divide and conquer strategy to rule them all. The first step is to think through the base cases and recurrence. The base case here is a single political entity, can be a tribe, a region, or a small kingdom that Rome can easily defeat. The recurrence case here is any larger political entity that isn't so easy to conquer. Let's go through these 3 steps: divide, conquer, and combine. So the first step is to divide into provinces. Rome would break down large political entities into smaller manageable pieces, usually by exploiting their cultural differences and block communications between different regions, sometimes create hatred and conflicts between different culture groups so that they can fight each other, exhaust their energy, so Rome can get benefit. As you can see here, Rome wants to keep these provinces stable. So within each province here, they further divide them into small solvable base cases. Here, the base cases are the local rivalries within each province that Rome can easily conquer. Rome does so by rewarding their allies, isolating the foe, bribery, and force. So after solving each base case, Rome was able to get its rewards, including more troops, more taxes, and these resources further helped them to solve the bigger entities, the provinces. These small fractions and political entities also each are loyal to Rome but suspicious of their neighbors, leaving Rome at the referee role and gaining control. So the Rome Empire was able to dismantle the big complex case into smaller chunks and gain modular control through divide and conquer. Although divide and conquer sounds appealing to apply, there are some common pitfalls, and let's talk about how to dodge them. So the first very common mistake is the wrong or the weak base case. The single most important thing in divide and conquer is to find the right base case that can be generalized to solve recurrence case and then eventually solve the bigger, more complex problem. In other words, your base case should be the modular component of your bigger picture. It is a very common mistake that people, when they look for the base case doesn't contribute to their eventual goal. Like you studying as an example, if your base case isn't to recall and do spaced repetition, but rather you read the text over and over again. Obviously, here the base case is too weak. The right way is that you need to really spend time and thinking about the base case that can be able to generalize to solve your bigger problem. Remember, in merge sort, our base case, a single element array, although it's simple, but it guarantees it is monotonously increasing. So you need to find the base case, although it's simple, but it's set the right direction and can contribute to the recurrence case and eventually to solve your bigger problem. And the second pitfall is the broken rhythm. Sometimes people push too hard. So it is very common that people overestimate what they can do in one day but underestimate what they can do in 10 years. A concrete example in HIIT and pomodoro, where there's concept of high intensity and then small break. So if you break the rhythm, for example, push too hard in one move or exhaust your energy in one session of study, you find yourself hard to continue because you have depleted your energy. It is like you have used the gas to the gas station, and eventually to refuel, it will take you more energy and more time. So persistence is the key, but you need to maintain the repeatable cadence of work and rest. And the next thing is context switching. So remember, there's one important step in divide and conquer, which is the last step is to combine. You need to use your base case to solve the subproblems. So if you do context switching, your base cases cannot contribute to subcomponents, and eventually they don't really help your solve your bigger problem. So a concrete case here is that, for example, if in your Pomodoro, if you are doing project A in Pomodoro 1 and B in Pomodoro 2, always different things gather around, then you won't have focus. Your base case cannot contribute to your subcomponents, and eventually they just don't contribute to your final goal. The way to solve this is really to dismantle the big problems into subproblems and into base case. Think about how you dissect. Think about how you dismantle the big problem into smaller chunks and how they can recursively solve back the bigger problem. So all in all, we need to be tactical into dismantling the big problem into smaller chunks and then focus on the small chunks. And also maintain the rhythm so that you have the waves of energy. So that's it. To recap, divide and conquer is an ancient concept that can not only be applied in fast computation through algorithms, but also in productivity, fitness, and power. Thank you for watching. See you next time.